15,000 years ago, a wolf approached a human campfire. The human didn't kill it. That single moment of hesitation is the reason you have a dog sleeping on your couch right now. Nobody planned this. Nobody said, let's take the most dangerous predator on the continent and turn it into a pet. Nobody sat down and decided to spend the next 10,000 years selectively breeding wolves until they fetched sticks and waited by the door. It just happened. And the way it happened is one of the strangest, most accidental stories in the entire history of life on Earth. Here's what most people think. Ancient humans found wolf puppies, cute ones. They raised them, fed them, trained them, and slowly, over generations, those wolves became dogs. That's the story. Simple. Makes sense? Feels right. It's almost certainly wrong. The real story is weirder, and it starts not with humans choosing wolves, but with wolves choosing humans. Here's what was actually happening 15,000 years ago. Humans were messy. Everywhere a group of humans camped, they left behind waste, bones, scraps, half-eaten carcasses, discarded fat and marrow and gristle, a ring of garbage spread out from every camp like a permanent buffet that nobody had to hunt for. Most animals stayed away. The fire was dangerous. The humans unpredictable. The smell of smoke meant death. But some wolves were different. Not all wolves have the same temperament. Within any population, there are bolder individuals and more fearful ones. The fearful ones stayed deep in the forest. The bold ones crept to the edge of the trees. The bold ones watched the fire. The bold ones waited until the humans slept. And the bold ones ate. The humans mostly ignored them. A wolf that kept its distance wasn't worth the effort of chasing away. There were bigger problems. There was always something more important, so the bold wolves ate, and the fearful wolves didn't. Consistent calories meant more pups. More pups meant more offspring that inherited their parents' boldness. Generation after generation, the wolves that could stand being near humans ate better, lived longer, reproduced more. The humans didn't breed them. Evolution did. Biologist Raymond Coppinger spent decades studying exactly this process. He called it self-domestication. The wolves that couldn't tolerate humans moved away or starved. The wolves that could tolerate humans stayed. And slowly, over thousands of years, a new kind of animal appeared around human camps. Not quite a wolf anymore. Not yet a dog. Something in between. But here's where it gets stranger. In 1959, Soviet geneticist Dmitry Belyaev began the most famous experiment in the history of animal behavior. He was working in Siberia under a government that considered genetics politically suspicious. So officially, he was studying the fur industry. What he was actually doing was far more extraordinary. He took wild silver foxes, animals with no history of domestication, and did one simple thing. He bred only the tamest ones. Not the smartest, not the biggest, not the healthiest, only the ones that didn't bite, the ones that didn't flee when a human approached, the ones that showed something that looked just slightly like curiosity instead of fear. He did this every generation, kept only the tamest 10%, bred them together. Within 6 generations, the foxes were noticeably calmer. Within 10, they were actively seeking human contact. Within 20, something completely unexpected happened. The foxes started developing floppy ears, shorter snouts, curly tails, spotted coats. Their faces began to look younger, juvenile features that never fully matured into adult wolf-like sharpness. They started whimpering, wagging their tails, making eye contact and holding it, behaving in almost every way like dogs. Nobody selected for any of those traits. Belyaev only selected for tameness. He never once chose a fox because it had floppy ears, but tameness came packaged with everything else. Scientists call this the domestication syndrome, and the explanation took decades to figure out. When you select for reduced fear responses, you are inadvertently selecting for changes in the neural crest cells, a population of cells in the embryo that migrate through the body during development and shape an extraordinary range of traits. Stress hormone production, ear cartilage stiffness, coat pigmentation, skull shape, the timing of developmental stages, all connected, all part of the same package. Less fear, floppy ears, spotted coat, juvenile face. It comes as a bundle. You pull one thread and the whole thing moves. This is why dogs look the way they do. The floppy ears on a beagle, the soft rounded face of a Labrador, the eyes that look almost human. Nobody designed any of it. All of it was a side effect of selecting for one thing, the wolf that wasn't afraid. So where did humans actually come in? At first, barely at all. The early proto-dogs hung around camps, ate scraps, kept their distance. The humans mostly tolerated them because the arrangement had accidental benefits. The proto-dogs barked at night when predators approached. They cleaned up waste that would otherwise attract insects and disease. They were an early warning system that cost nothing to maintain. A useful neighbor, not yet a friend. But then something shifted. Somewhere between 10,000 and 14,000 years ago, the archaeological record changes. Dog burials start appearing. Not just discarded bones, not just animals killed and eaten. Deliberate graves, careful burials. Dogs interred alongside humans with the same attention given to people. In a site in northern Israel, a 12,000-year-old grave was found. An elderly human curled on one side, a hand resting on a small puppy, both buried together, both placed with intention. In Germany, a burial site from around 14,000 years ago contains a man and woman buried together, with two dogs at their feet. The dogs were old. Their bones show healed injuries that would have required care to survive. In Siberia, in North America, in ancient Egypt, wherever humans went, eventually dogs came with them, and eventually dogs were buried with them. The relationship had become something that required marking. Archaeologist and evolutionary biologist Brian Hare spent years trying to understand what made dogs different, not just tamer than wolves. Different. Fundamentally, cognitively different. His experiment was simple. He pointed at something. Just pointed at a cup with food hidden under it. Wolves couldn't follow the gesture. Even wolves raised from birth by humans, socialized, trained, living in human homes. They couldn't reliably follow a pointed finger. Chimpanzees, our closest relatives, couldn't do it either. Not consistently. But dogs could, almost immediately. Even puppies with no training. Even dogs that had spent almost no time with humans. Dogs understand what it means when a human points. They understand that you are directing their attention to something you want them to see. They understand the social intent behind the gesture. This is not something you can train. It is not a trick. It is a cognitive adaptation. Dogs evolved the ability to read human communication signals because for thousands of generations, the dogs that could read humans live better than the ones that couldn't. The ones that understood you got fed, got kept close, got protected when predators came, got their injuries tended, and they passed that understanding on. Geneticist Adam Boyko has spent years mapping the DNA of dogs across the world. His research traces the origin of every modern dog back to a single domestication event. One population of wolves, somewhere in East Asia or Central Asia, somewhere between 15,000 and 40,000 years ago. Every dog that has ever lived carries that ancestry. Every Labrador, every Chihuahua, every Greyhound, every ancient Egyptian hunting dog painted on a tomb wall, every sled dog crossing Arctic ice. All of them descended from that one group of bold wolves who crept toward a fire and were not killed for it. The DNA tells you something else too. Dogs spread across the entire planet with humans. Every continent where humans went, dogs followed, or led, or walked alongside. The two species have been co-evolving for so long that we have shaped each other. Dogs have genes for starch digestion that wolves lack. They evolved to eat the same foods humans eat. Humans have elevated levels of oxytocin, the bonding hormone, triggered specifically by eye contact with dogs. Not with wolves, not with other animals, with dogs. Your brain responds to your dog looking at you the same way it responds to a child looking at you. That response is not accidental. It was built in both of you by thousands of years of mutual selection. Here is the quiet thing at the center of all of this. Evolution doesn't have goals. There was no plan. No wolf that decided to become a dog. No human that decided to create one. Just millions of small interactions over thousands of years, each one selecting slightly for closeness, slightly for tameness, slightly for that tilt of the head that makes a human feel understood. The wolf that approached the campfire wasn't trying to start a relationship. The human who didn't throw a spear wasn't making a decision. Maybe they were tired. Maybe the wolf was small. Maybe it just didn't seem worth the effort. A moment of hunger, a moment of laziness, multiplied 10 million times across thousands of years. And then one day there was a dog. Your dog knows your face, knows the sound of your car, notices when your mood changes before you do, has evolved specifically over 15,000 years to pay attention to you. Not because you trained it, because the ones that paid attention survived. And you are the